Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SAS podcast, coming to you from the Podblog studio in St. George, Utah, and produced by Markel Consulting, LLC. I'm your host, Dave Markel. This week's episode will be abbreviated due to the holidays, but I did want to join you for just a few minutes to make you aware of an upcoming episode with Arci Grey that will be airing in just a few weeks. Today's short interview introduces you to Arci, a survivor extraordinaire, an author, a life coach, a podcaster, and an amazing person of inspiration and hope. I wanted to give you just a glimpse of what's to come, so I asked her for just a few minutes of her time today so that we could give you a little taste of what's to come in her full interview. Here's Arci.
Hello.
How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Well, I'm feeling pretty honored and privileged that you even agreed to do this the day after Christmas.
Oh.
Really, it's very kind of you to be so generous with your time.
Well, of course. No, I mean, today is the day after Christmas. It's the lounge around in your sweatpants day and just take it all in. So I had nothing else on the schedule and I love my work and it's very hard for me to take a day off. So you kind of gave me a perfect excuse to do work on a lazy day.
That's kind of awesome. I appreciate that. It's pretty much the whole week, not just the day after Christmas, but I don't know that a whole lot of businesses do anything from now until after New Year. So it's kind of hard to get anything done.
It is true. But those who stick with it and do some work, right? You're just a little bit farther ahead of the rest. So
well, exactly. And that's why I wanted to have you on. I just wanted to give my audience a little something this week instead of reposting something or just listening to me. Kind of wanted to give them a sample of what's to come when we do a full-blown interview with you. Why don't you just start off, Arci, by telling everybody who you are and what you do?
So my name is Arci Grey. I'm a survivor success coach. So essentially, I help survivors of sexual abuse, sexual assault, and domestic violence to find their own justice through success. And we focus a lot on post-traumatic growth and how to break the trauma cycle and kind of build a life you're unapologetically proud of. And for most of my clients, that usually means some form of entrepreneurship. So building a business or an organization or a nonprofit that fits their purpose and their passion.
That is awesome. It's exactly the path that I think many survivors need to be on and is so therapeutic. I work also with the Jan Broberg Foundation and Jan Broberg's podcast. I think we talked a little bit about that a few months ago when we first met and started talking, but it's one of the things that I plan on doing both through this platform with sexual assault survivor stories as well as through Jan's online community is just giving victims and survivors that vision of some real growth and healing that can come from doing the types of things that you coach.
Yes. When I first started coaching, I was just trying to help other survivors kind of recover from their trauma. We had a really great time and we did a lot of growing together, but there was always this piece missing. And a huge part of that was the feeling, this massive feeling of injustice. And I knew that it's one thing to come back to baseline, right? To get your life back together after a crisis. But with my experience, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I have my life back together. And I didn't want that life. I was like, I don't want my old life back. That's all the things that led to one trauma after another, one crisis after another. And once I shifted my perspective and I was able to say hey, wait, what do I want for my life? Now that I have sort of climbed out of the rut, right? I felt invincible and I was like, what do I want to do? And I found that I did way more healing and way more growth in pursuit of my business. And like I said, with purpose and very passionately so. So if you don't have a direction to go in, if your only goal is to get out of pain, you're never really going to get that far. In fact, it keeps you anchored to pain. You're always going to kind of fall back into it. So having that purpose, especially a purpose where you're helping others, can do way more for your growth and healing than anything else I've ever tried. So I'm a pretty big proponent of it.
It's very true. And it's something that I also am a big proponent of and really encourage people to do is reaching out to others who are suffering. And it's amazing how healing that can be to an individual when they're helping someone else or several other people, as in your case. And that's a little bit why I wanted to come on this week to promote this concept of helping yourself by helping others. And I wanted to touch just a few minutes on the trauma-informed aspect of that. Tell our audience, if you don't mind, how you became trauma-informed, where you took that path.
For me, it was trial and error and absolute frustration. I struggled with trauma from very early age, not having a clue what it was. I was sort of labeled with learning disorders, and it turns out I had dyslexia that nobody ever figured out. People, they thought I had ADHD in high school. I was kind of just labeled as like the flake, the one who couldn't get her life together. And this went on for years until my mid-30s. And I had run successful businesses and I had run businesses into the ground. And so I was just struggling through life and I couldn't figure out what it was, this sort of black cloud, this invisible like barrier to my success. I couldn't figure out why everybody else figured it out, figured life out. And I was struggling all the time. You know, I was like, was I absent the day they handed out the secret handbook to happiness? Like, I really didn't get it. And in my 30s, suffered a pretty traumatic event. And then after I suffered this crazy trauma and what I call almost murder, I finally had a therapist who had come from a background of being a coach, a life coach. And so she had a completely different approach to therapy. It wasn't just talk therapy. And she was so encouraging of me to seek out my own answers. She was very bold with me and very honest with me and said, look, 1 hour once a week is not going to fix your traumas. This is just a place for you to come and get some alignment, get, a course correction or get some feedback and to know that you have support, but you have to do the work. The other, 6 days and 23 hours of the week. And it was some tough love, but it was absolutely everything I needed to hear. And I just dove in. I had studied some neuroscience and environmental psychology in college. And I was like, wait a minute, I know principles of how the environment affects you. And I dove into that. Yeah. And then I dove deeper into neuroscience. And then I went and got certified in hypnotherapy. And I was my own guinea pig. And I tried all of these things. And I started just consuming as much information as possible because I needed to know why does this crap keep happening to me? Like, why am I living like this? And it can't just be, oh, you're stuck like that, or, or here, take these pills, or, it's not all in your head, all these things. And so it was a long journey. And it ultimately came down to one quote that I heard, and I wish that I could find it again or figure out exactly where I heard it or who said it to me, but it's brought everything together. Trauma is not psychological, it's neurological. That changed everything for me because that shifted everything that I was trying to learn and understand about the symptoms I had. Those were psychological. And I started saying, okay, but where's the cause? Where's the root? How do I shift this? And that's neurological. And that's what's happening in your brain and your body. That's the journey. I hope that answers your question.
No, it's perfect. It really does kind of set the stage for where we will go when we do our full-blown interview with you and,
yes.
and where you're going with this recovery, and that there is some amazing hope and resilience and recovery.
Another little soundbite, if you will, is that trauma is like when you're healing from trauma, people say, okay, it's a journey, not a destination. No, it's a journey of 1,000 destinations. Mm-hmm. It is a journey. And yes, okay, we say it takes work because it takes effort and it takes energy and it takes dedication, but it's not always hard. Like sometimes it is hard work. Sometimes there are tough days and I still will get a pizza and sit in the bathtub and cry. Like it happens. Yeah. I do it far less now. And now I do it as a celebration of like, hey, I did some hard work on myself today. I earned this. So those destinations, we're going to get to those points where something is going to come up and we're going to exercise a boundary and we're going to recognize, hey, wait a minute, I didn't fall back into an old pattern. And hey, wait a minute, like I did good this time, like gold star for me. I'm 1,000 times better than I was, right? Like I'm happy. I love my life. I love everything I've created for my life. And I'm just so excited to see what's going to come next in my life. Wow. And then we still have those craptastic days, right? Yeah. But it's like, when I say healed-ish, it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm still going to have craptastic days. There's still going to be things that come up that might trigger me that I've never experienced before. And I'm not afraid of it. I'm actually excited for it because it's like, cool. All right, bring it on. I have the tools. I know how to overcome those things. So I'm kind of like, all right, come on, bring this challenge on. Let me see what I can do with this.
Yeah.
It builds so much confidence. It's so exciting. I know it sounds crazy, but like, I hope that people can get to a point in their healing where it's fun for them, where they get, and I know it sounds crazy, and I totally understand all of the people that are sitting in a place of like despair right now, where they're overwhelmed by their symptoms and their trauma and the crises in their life. Because I was there, completely overwhelmed, didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. But once you embrace it and, go headfirst into the storm, like, you will feel this energy shift and this courage and this bravery to keep going. And that's what I want to encourage people to do. Like, that's the exciting part. That's the fun part of it all. So I know I sound crazy. I do. I know I do.
Absolutely not. I think it's inspiring. And I'm so excited for the next time that we talk, because as we've been alluding to, we will have a full-blown interview of your story, how things happened. And I know you've told me a lot of it, but I think the audience is going to be enthralled and intrigued, but also inspired by all the pain that you went through, and yet you're where you are. And so I'm looking forward to that. So I appreciate you taking just these few short minutes with me to kind of let people know what's coming, let people know that there are some amazing aspects to the healing process. And so, Arci, we'll talk again. And I hope the rest of your week and your New Year's celebration and this new year bring really wonderful things for you.
Oh, thank you so much. And you too. And thank you for having me. And I am equally excited. I know we have a lot of overlap in our missions and our goals and our purpose. And I look forward to what we can do together. I think this is going to be a fun ride.
Great. Thanks, Arci. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye. That does it for another episode of SAS. Thanks for listening. Listen to a new episode each week. And please remember to subscribe, rate each episode, and spread the word about this important podcast, because we all know someone who's been affected by sexual assault or rape. Remember to start by believing, and let's all do our share to help bring justice to victims of rape and sexual assault. We'll talk to you next week.